My name is Colin Smith. I'm a pianist and teacher at Wonderland Performing Arts. Today we'll be going through a few things for the stage. What exactly the definition of on a side is, some tips for choosing repertoire, emotions on the stage, as well as some trivia and choosing the proper clothing. One of my favorite subjects. So without much ado, nothing. Now then. This chair instead. Now then, first off, what is an aside? Have you ever had an unexpressed thought and you wanted to share it with someone who might get your gist? But everyone else in the room may not understand the joke, or they might be upset that you have these thoughts. Well, this is an aside. And so your moment to express this to the audience breaks the fourth wall. It lends them information that they didn't have before. And it creates a sort of relationship, a sort of in-the-know type of feeling for the audience, or perhaps for the character you're speaking to, that the rest of the actors don't know about. It's very interesting. This is a literary device that dates back to the medieval period. One of the very first and most beloved, I hesitate to use the word musical, is The Order of the Virtues, written by, wait, don't tell me, Roswitha. Wonderful composer of the medieval period. It is the tale of the Order of the Virtues, and they're introducing themselves. They guide a soul through life, and the devil comes up here and there. The devil is actually the most fun part to play. He does not sing at all. In fact, he interjects some insults and asides to the audience, making fun of the virtues, as the devil might do. Now, our first example comes from A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a rather tasty musical. So, Quince and Bottom, playing the characters of Pyramus and Thisbe, are rehearsing their play for the royal performance. And Robin comes in. He enters, unseen by the characters on stage. To himself, he says, "Who are these country bumpkins swaggering around so close to where the fairy queen is sleeping? What? Are they about to put on a play? I'll watch. And I'll act in it too, if I feel like it." Clearly he is a mischievous character. One of the most well-known, of course, is Romeo and Juliet. Just a bit too melodramatic for me, but Clearly he didn't ask me about that. Now then. This is from Act 2, Scene 2. Oh, excuse me, this is Act 2, Scene 2, on page 40. The above quote is spoken by Romeo after Juliet reveals her intense love for him during the balcony scene. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Yada, yada, yada. And then he says, interrupting his own listening of Juliet's passionate speech, shall I hear more, or shall I speak at this? He is immensely moved by her repeated affirmations of love. Romeo asks himself if he should quietly listen to Juliet's passionate love confessions or respond to her overwhelming admission of selfless love. The audience is the only one to witness this conflicting aside made by him in the moment. Rather a touching example of young love and such. My page is still loading. Ah, yes. Last but not least is Julius Caesar. One of the principal characters, Mark Antony, says to the audience, after the stab wound was delivered by Brutus to Julius Caesar, spoiler alert, he says, this was the most unkindest cut of all. And he was right. You see, when a character has these thoughts, they pertain to the plot. They pertain to what the character is feeling. But the audience hasn't the ability to read minds, and this is why this beautiful and yet simple device is used to gain an insight the audience does not have, that the other characters do not have. It's like you have a backstage pass to whatever Mark Antony or Romeo or whomever is speaking is thinking. Now then, let's move on. Choosing a repertoire. Now this is a particularly hairy subject. There are so many factors that come into play when you are choosing repertoire for yourself. Your ability, to choose something that fits your age and your experience will showcase the best of yourself at the audition or performance or what have you. If there is a showcase or a talent show or something, choose something that you know you can nail. If you choose too much of a challenge, you may set yourself up for making mistakes or perhaps an embarrassment. If you choose something that's very easy, it becomes boring and too much routine for yourself, as well as fails to impress the audience or the onlookers. It's important that once you have mastered a certain monologue or a song, that you add it to your collection of monologues. Put it away for a while, come back to it later. You always learn something fresh when you come back after an intermission, as it were. My favorite thing to do is to ask for help. I am first to acknowledge a mistake of my own, and I relish the idea that my friends or colleagues might offer criticism or perhaps offer to help, and by all means, it's a work in progress. And asking a colleague or a teacher is incredibly valuable. My experience on the stage as a hobby is rife with blemishes and plenty of room for improvement. So I welcome the idea of a fellow actor saying, you missed this line, etc. Naturally, I would always trust Ms. Allison Brandon to know exactly what to do. I would certainly ask for her help in choosing repertoire. She knows quite a lot. Now, this is twofold. Asking for help when choosing a monologue is one thing. Asking for help choosing music is quite another. When auditioning for a musical, you need music. You must prepare something to sing and showcase your voice and your emotions and gestures through the song. It's a different medium. It's like showing up with a sketch and a painting. Oh, look at you. You can do more than one thing. Cutting a song is difficult because you must tell a bit of the story, explain a bit of the character you are performing, showcase your efforts, your voice and your abilities, as well as fit in the famous 16 or 32 bar cut. 32 bars meaning 32 measures. If you look in your music, you have little lines where all the notes fit in boxes. Those are called measures. Sometimes it's easy to cut things, sometimes it's not. That is why I am here to help. The next thing, and the most difficult for some people, is to choose the right key. If you choose a song, and you know it, and you know you can nail it, good for you, but making sure it's not too high or too low is very important. If it is too low, some of the notes may not sound. I have a relatively high voice, and anything below F, below middle C, is not very loud. I've dealt with this for so long. Anyway, singing something that is too high can also strain the voice and perhaps allow you to crack in the audition. So, careful. Asking for help from a musician is always helpful. I can hear you sing something comfortable, and then we'll fiddle around on the piano finding the right key that fits your voice. I pride myself on doing this very quickly. Oh, hello. And it's very useful. So, ask for help. Choose something you know you can be confident in, that fits your age and your ability. And find a good key. Now, of course, that doesn't apply to monologues, but anyway. All right, I think it's time for a brief intermission. Now then, next on the list is emotions on the stage. This is an exercise best demonstrated standing up, but when you choose to convey emotion, there are 3 things you can do: body language, gestures, and tone of voice. I have said this before, but I'd like to pinpoint, using a certain phrase, emotions, and the differences and the immense possibility you have when creating a character. So, let's try the phrase, "and what were you doing?" It's very simple, but it contains so much underlying context before and after that isn't audible, but you have to create the context with yourself. Perhaps you are melancholy and you are afraid of the answer. So you show this in your body language, in your soft gestures, your weakness, and your tone of voice. And what were you doing? Now I took a pause. Sometimes it's not good to use a pause. Pauses tend to make you spill tea all over the place. Pauses are not quite beneficial for everybody. So I would caution against the pause. But you know, sometimes you can make do with what you have by being resourceful. And then people like you. Let's try again. With a happier emotion, you perhaps have a surprise. For the other character in the scene, you are waiting to tell something, or perhaps you're waiting to expose something to the audience, and it's exciting, so you're brimming with the as you rise higher. Your eyes, your face shows the emotion, the excitement. Let's go. And what were you doing? A third example of emotion is interrogation. Perhaps you hold back something. Like before, you hold back sadness, or you hold back the excitement of a surprise. There's also a restraint when absorbing information. Perhaps someone's done something wrong and you want to know what it is they're doing. Shame on them. So you hold back. You have the restraint in your body language, in your shoulders, in your gestures, and in your face, especially with eyebrows. I like using my eyebrows. And my nose comes in handy. So let's pretend that your brother or sister has done something wrong and you need to know before you go, Mom. Go tell Mom. And what were you doing? See, the tension is evident in the rigidness of the body, the eyebrows, and fidgety hand motions. Hands are useful. If you fidget, it can be useful. But be careful not to distract from the scene by doing all sorts of things that, take away from what you're trying to say. Now then, moving on to clothing. Clothing is a very integral part of life. It can be stylish, it can be business casual, it can be all sorts of things. Now, when you are going to an audition and you are to perform, a nice combination that is simple, makes you feel confident and feel good about yourself, but is a cut above casual. No jeans, no t-shirts. Something that brings to the table a sense of respect for the judges, regardless of what they wear. You present yourself to them. Say, hello, this is me, and I'm ready to go. Blah. And you sing, of course, better than that, I suppose. The next portion, of course, is casual clothing for dancing. Dance wear is important. Now, you might take a journey with me over the wardrobe, but we'll talk about it. Clothing. Now then, as one can tell, clothing is very important when presenting oneself with flashy colors. It might distract from the tone of your song. If you are somber, try to dress something that matches what you are performing. Naturally, you want to be versatile in an audition, so when auditioning for a comedic role, perhaps dress accordingly. I'm often fond of dressing up. I bet you knew that. And always prepare something casual for the dance audition. Casual clothing is very useful and very, mandatory. You must feel comfortable. You must be able to move without inhibition, without being rigid or being afraid of tearing your pants. Done that before. Doing a plie too roughly and then Always remember that comfort is very important in the audition. So, as you go about your merry way, take these thoughts into consideration. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about Mozart. Mozart's operas are one of the closest examples of musical theater from the classical period. Opera takes on slightly different forms as time goes by, morphing between song and dance and then conversation to a whole art form that is just non-stop tension and intrigue. Wagner did that a lot. Mozart has clear and concise structure to his music. There is an aria that's a nice light song, and then there is the recitative. Recitative is the conversation between the songs, the dialogue, if you will. Even though it is sung, it aids the plot. So, the harpsichord might play a few chords underneath the conversation. And as the conversation goes along, I will then take a sip of my tea and wait for the song to begin. And then the intro for the song starts, the people start tapping their foot, and they realize, oh, a song's coming on. Mozart's very good about that. This is a very clear example of early musical theater styling, and is what makes his work so popular even today. The translation into English, while welcome, sometimes leaves out the nuances of Italian. The intrigue, the humor, the inside jokes are oftentimes lost when, well, in translation. Words. I was saying something. Oh yes, Italian humor might be slightly different from ours. That said, the immense complexity of his slapstick humor and edge-of-your-seat timing just makes him valuable immensely. Go look up a Mozart opera. You'll enjoy it, I promise. If you don't, shame on you. Now I think it's time we say farewell. I am glad to have this time with you. I hope that you will take these notes into consideration. This episode was brought to you by tea, every singer's friend. Stirred, not shaken. Now then, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.